Welcome to Darktopia, where shadows whisper and nightmares come to life. Tonight, we bring you a tale of horror that will send chills down your spine. Are you ready to step into the darkness? Let the terror begin. Abigail stepped through the heavy wooden door of the old school dormitory, a sense of foreboding settling over her like a thick fog. The walls were painted a dull shade of yellow, peeling in places, and the worn-out carpet emitted a faint musty odor. The dormitory, with its long corridors and dimly lit rooms, felt more like a prison than a place of learning. She had chosen this school, known for its rigorous academics, without knowing its haunted past. Stories circulated among students, whispers about room 230, the very room she had been assigned. Rumor had it that a girl named Sarah had taken her life in that very space several years ago. Abigail had dismissed it as mere gossip, but the chill that ran down her spine as she entered her room was hard to ignore. The room was small, furnished with a single bed, a desk, and a closet. The walls were adorned with posters of inspirational quotes, but they felt hollow, devoid of any real comfort. Abigail set her suitcase down, trying to shake off the unease that clung to her. She was determined to make the most of her time here, despite the unsettling history that loomed over her. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows in the room, Abigail began to unpack. She was startled by the sound of footsteps outside her door. Curiosity piqued. She opened the door slightly, peering into the dimly lit hallway. A few students passed by, chatting and laughing, blissfully unaware of the dark secret that lingered in the air. That night, Abigail lay in bed, tossing and turning. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of the buildings settling. As she closed her eyes, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Suddenly, she was jolted awake by a soft whisper, a voice barely audible yet chillingly clear. "Help me!" Abigail sat up, heart racing. "Hello, is anyone there?" she called out, but only silence answered. She glanced around the room, the shadows dancing ominously in the dim light of her bedside lamp. The whisper had felt so real, but it must have been her imagination playing tricks on her. The next day, Abigail tried to focus on her classes, but her mind kept drifting back to that whisper. During lunch, she overheard a group of girls talking about room 215. "They say you can still hear her crying at night," one of them said, her voice low. "Sarah was so sad. It's like she never left." Abigail felt a chill run down her spine. The stories were starting to take a toll on her, and she wondered if she should have chosen another dormitory. But there was something deeper pulling her in, a morbid curiosity about the girl whose life had ended so tragically. That night, determined to confront her fears, Abigail decided to investigate. She grabbed her flashlight and quietly slipped out of her room. The hallway was dark, and the air was thick with an unsettling energy. She approached room 213, her heart pounding. The door was slightly ajar, creaking as she pushed it open. Inside, the air felt heavy, laden with sorrow. The room was untouched, as if time had frozen the moment Sarah had left it. Abigail's flashlight beam danced across the walls, illuminating old photographs and reminders of a life that once was. On the desk, she noticed a small notebook. She picked it up, the leather cover worn and cracked. As she flipped through the pages, she found Sarah's handwriting beautiful but tinged with despair. "I feel so alone," one entry read. "No one understands me. I can't go on like this." Abigail's heart ached as she read. The more she delved into the notebook, the clearer it became that Sarah had battled demons that no one had noticed. The last entry sent a chill down her spine. "I'm sorry. I can't fight anymore." Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the room, and Abigail shivered. The door creaked shut behind her with a loud bang, and the temperature dropped. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice trembling. The only response was the whisper she had heard before, louder now, echoing through the room. "Help me, please." Panic set in, and Abigail rushed to the door, but it wouldn't budge. It felt as though an invisible force held it shut. She banged on the door, calling for help, but the hall was eerily quiet. The shadows in the room grew darker, swirling around her as if alive. In that moment of desperation, Abigail felt a deep sadness enveloping her, as though Sarah's pain was seeping into her very being. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. "I'm here for you, Sarah. I want to help you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. The room fell silent. The oppressive weight began to lift, and Abigail could feel a presence beside her, comforting yet sorrowful. She opened her eyes and saw a figure, faint but unmistakable, standing by the window. It was Sarah, her expression a mix of sadness and gratitude. "Thank you," Sarah's voice echoed softly, her form flickering like a candle flame. "I need you to remember me, to tell my story. I'm not at peace." Abigail nodded, feeling the connection between them. "I will, I promise," she vowed. As she spoke, the darkness began to recede, replaced by a soft glow. The door creaked open, and Abigail felt a rush of warmth surround her. With one last look at Sarah, Abigail stepped out of the room, the weight of despair lifted. She knew she had to honor Sarah's memory, to share her story and bring awareness to the struggles many faced in silence. From that night on, Abigail dedicated herself to helping others, using her voice to raise awareness about mental health. She started a support group for students, encouraging them to share their stories, just as she had promised to do for Sarah. Though the shadows of room 213 would always linger, Abigail knew that through understanding and compassion, she could help others find their way back to the light. And as she lay in bed each night, she felt Sarah's presence beside her, a guardian spirit guiding her on this important journey. In the end, Abigail learned that even in the darkest of places, there is always a way to find hope and healing. And sometimes, the voices of those who have suffered can be the strongest force for change, echoing through the corridors of time, urging us to listen, to understand, and to act. You've made it through the darkness, for now. But remember, the shadows are always watching. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next story that haunts the night. Until next time, sleep, if you can.